affected me the most that day were the first responders, really. The police officers, the firefighters, or just ordinary American citizens who on September 11, 2001, in my mind became truly extraordinary because instead of running away from the flames, people trying to save themselves, I watched Americans with no training whatsoever run into the smoke and the fires that day. And many of the people that ran into the fires that day never came out again with their lives. And I just remember thinking to myself in that moment, how can I sit here and do nothing when ordinary American citizens are giving their lives for people that they didn't even know? And I've heard it said, and I thought of this phrase in that moment. The two most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day that you figure out why. And in the wake of September 11, 2001, I feel like I knew exactly why God had put me on this earth. And that was to serve in the United States military, the greatest benevolent force the world has ever known. I was thinking, every decision that I could make in combat could potentially cost one of my soldiers their lives. It's an awesome responsibility for a 24-year-old kid. But my experience wasn't the exception, it's the rule. I mean, that is the situation that we put America's sons and daughters in every time they raise their right hand to take an oath to serve this country. We put them in unbelievable situations, and we expect them to handle it. And they do. Those rockets that have been fired at us, well, they missed us, but they landed in an Afghan school and on a playground and wounded and killed a bunch of young Afghan kids that were playing out there. And all of those families are at our front gate begging us to give them medical attention. We threw that gate open, and each of us scooped up this little kid. I remember grabbing this little girl. She had dark auburn hair and bright jade green eyes. And I remember trying to take her away from her father and her just desperately wanting to cling to him. Rightfully so, she was absolutely petrified. I remember trying to comfort her in English, and she's screaming in Pashto or Waziri or at the time in a language that I couldn't understand, and she couldn't understand me either. And I remember tearing her away from her dad and running to the aid station and following a long column of American soldiers that was each carrying this little kid all the way back to our company casualty collection point. And all the while, the rockets just kept landing, and they were landing closer and closer. And so they were 107 millimeter rockets about this big. And the way the Afghans do it is they'll line up 100 rockets, and they'll just go to one and light it, and they'll watch where it lands. And they see where it lands, and they make adjustments, 2, 3, 4. So they fire them all in succession and adjust fire with each one. So with every one that lands, the next one gets closer and closer. And so I'm thinking, if now these rounds are starting to land inside our base, I'm thinking, if we don't get these kids to the aid station and get cover ourselves, there's going to be a hell of a lot more casualties out here today. So about halfway there, my legs feel like they're filled with battery acid, and the moment itself is almost like happening in slow motion. And I remember this round tearing right over top of our head. It landed about 30 feet from me, and it almost knocked me right on my butt. Black, acrid smoke filled my nostrils and my mouth, burned my throat. I mean, I could hear the shrapnel tearing through the air, the sky. That's how you know they're really close, because you could hear it cracking. And staggered forward, I took a couple more steps, and I looked down, and the entire right side of my body was covered in blood, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been hit. And so I'm trying to stagger to the aid station with this little girl, trying to calm her down, while I'm furiously trying to pat down my leg to find the source of this injury. And as I'm doing it, I put my hand right in this little girl's leg and realized that it was missing below the knee. And I hadn't realized in the chaos of the moment with her father that she had been wounded that seriously. And so I tried to pick up the pace even faster. By the time I get to the aid station, I rush in, put her on the table. I realized that little girl, who was probably 6, wasn't even screaming anymore. And I didn't even realize it until I had gotten there. And she had died before I could even get her the help of a doctor. All of that on day 1